All right, we have quite a few attendees here this morning. Firstly, let me welcome everyone to today's virtual launch of the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute. My name is Jonathan Cicheran. I am the Innovation and Digital Business Officer here at Caribbean Export Development Agency. This morning, we are proud to launch our Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute, the CDTI. And with us today, we have a host of speakers from different backgrounds, from different sectors that have contributed to the development of the CDTI in one way or another. Without further ado, let me just address some house rules. Please, for the sake of the virtual launch, if you have any questions, we've opened up the question and answer tab. So feel free to drop your questions there, and our team will do their best to respond as quickly as possible. So please use the Q&A function as we go along. Feel free to drop your questions, and it will be answered in a timely manner. Um, we ask that for the purpose of this meeting that you will keep your cameras and your microphones muted so that we have minimal disruption throughout this morning's session. Um, as we begin, please note that we have with us several of our colleagues, again from different spaces that all contributed to the CDTI and where it is today. So I'd really like to welcome everyone here this morning. And I will begin by introducing Dr. Lynette Holder, who is the chairperson of the Board of Directors for the Caribbean Export Development Agency and the Chief Executive Officer of the Small Business Association of Barbados. Dr. Holder is no stranger to us, to the region, in terms of the role she plays in moving regional development. So, Dr. Holder, without further ado, I welcome you to present us with some welcome remarks.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Let me say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from at this point in time. Let me recognize the Honorable Philip Jackson, Minister of Education, Vocational Training and Innovation, and Digital Transformation within the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Dr. Demi Sinanen, who is the Executive Director of Caribbean Export, and obviously the management and staff of CEDA. Dr. Sylvia Donert, Lead Private Sector Development Specialist at the Inter-American Development Bank. And I also want to recognize Ms. Kayla Grant, the Executive Director at Compete Caribbean. Thank you so much for being with us today. Now, today we are not merely launching an institute, we are institutionalizing the future of a digital Caribbean. The Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute arrives at a critical time when the global economy is being reshaped by rapid technological change. Digital transformation is no longer optional, it is essential. And for the Caribbean, this reality carries both urgency and opportunity. Our small open economies are particularly vulnerable to external shocks, as we have seen in recent years. Yet, we are also uniquely positioned to leverage digital technologies to overcome structural constraints, expand market access, and unlock new pathways for growth. And within our own region, the evidence suggests that Caribbean firms that adopt digital tools are significantly more likely to export, improve productivity, and access new customers. And at the same time, however, a significant proportion of regional MSMEs have yet to fully integrate digital technologies into their operations, and many continue to face barriers related to skills, financing, and infrastructure. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is precisely within this context that the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute emerges as both timely and necessary. This institute is a strategic response to a regional imperative. It is designed to equip our businesses, institutions, and entrepreneurs with the tools, knowledge, and capabilities required to compete in an increasingly digital global marketplace. It will serve as a platform for building digital skills and fostering innovation from agribusiness and manufacturing to services and the creative industries. Importantly, this initiative is rooted in collaboration. It reflects the collective vision and commitment of our partners, our stakeholders, and development allies who recognize that digital transformation is not the responsibility of any single institution, but rather a shared regional priority, and as such, sought to treat to it as a regional public good. I would like, therefore, to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank all those who have contributed to bringing this initiative to life. The IADB and Compete Caribbean, technical experts, and a dedicated team at Caribbean Export. Your support and commitment have been instrumental in moving this vision from concept to reality. The Digital Transformation Institute supports our broader mandate to enhance the competitiveness of Caribbean enterprises and to support sustainable, inclusive growth. And by strengthening digital capabilities, we are not only improving business performance, we are creating opportunities for youth, empowering women entrepreneurs, and enabling greater participation in global value chain. So today's remarks, as I commence this journey, launches the beginning of an exciting experience for us in the region. Over the course of this program, participants will engage in learning, experimentation, and innovation. They will develop practical solutions, build new partnerships, and position themselves for growth in a digital first world. As we move forward, it is essential that we maintain momentum. Digital transformation is not a one-time intervention. It is an ongoing process that requires continuous learning, adaptation, and investment. And so this institute is designed to support this journey, but its success will ultimately depend on the collective engagement and commitment of all stakeholders represented here today across the entire CARIFORUM region and beyond. And so in closing, I encourage each of you to see this initiative not just as a program, but as an opportunity to reimagine what is possible for your organizations, for your sector, and overall for our region. Thank you for joining us for this launch.
Thank you for those welcoming remarks, Dr. Hula, and indeed, it is exciting times ahead. I'd now like to invite Dr. Demi Sunanan, who is the Executive Director of Caribbean Export Development Agencies, to share a few remarks with us as well. Dr. Sunanan?
Yeah, thank you very much, Jonathan. And I would first like to recognize the presence of the Honorable Philip Jackson, Minister of Education, Vocational Training and Innovation, and Digital Transformation from the Government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Lynette Holder, the Chairperson of the Board of Directors of Caribbean Export Development Agency, Ms. Sylvia Donut, Lead Private Sector Development Specialist of the Inter-American Development Bank, and Ms. Kayla Grant, who is the Executive Director of the Compete Caribbean Partnership Facility. It is really my pleasure as Executive Director to welcome everyone here this morning for this very important launch of this initiative, the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute. As Dr. Holder so eloquently said in her remarks, the CDTI comes along at a very pivotal time for small and medium-sized enterprises in the Caribbean region. We like to say that, we have to innovate and we have to really move from a consumption-based society to become more future-driven businesses. But the fact is the Caribbean region is lagging very far behind. We have to play catch-up. And while we are playing catch-up, the world is moving on ahead. Technology and innovation is moving at an extremely rapid pace. and the region, small and medium-sized enterprises, are going to need a lot of help and a lot of support to continue to really keep up the pace with the movement that's happening in technology and innovation in the world. That's where the CDTI comes in. We view the CDTI as a strategic intervention designed to give small and medium-sized enterprises in the Caribbean the digital tools, e-commerce capabilities, and operational efficiency that they need to thrive. It's really going to provide the type of capacity building support that will bridge the digital divide as an economic necessity towards building regional resilience. The CDTI will serve as a hub for capacity building, ensuring that no SME is left behind while the global economy transitions to a digital-first reality. The CDTI is really a partnership because we view that Caribbean Export can't do this alone. So this represents a very strong partnership between the Inter-American Development Bank and the Complete Caribbean Partnership Facility. By pooling our resources and expertise, we view this as building a very robust support ecosystem for small and medium-sized enterprises in the Caribbean region. We have to realize that we can't do it alone and we can't work in silos. We have to spread and pool resources if we have to achieve the maximum efficiency possible. So while we continue to pivot in this digital divide, the CDTI will focus on long-term sustainability. It will help businesses navigate this digital landscape so that they can withstand future economic and environmental shocks. We also see the CDTI, the BSOs in the region, the business support organizations, as playing a critical role in ensuring that SMEs across the region have access to the CDTI. Caribbean Export alone can't do it, as I noted before. We have a number of regional BSOs across the 15 CARIFORUM member states that are all pushing forward with digital initiatives. We want to see a collaborative effort where all BSOs can get together and support the implementation and the access to the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute. Therefore, we call upon our regional BSOs to be the primary advocate for this initiative by guiding your members towards these new digital resources. BSOs are the essential link in our ecosystem, and your active partnership is required to ensure that these tools reach your entrepreneurs who need them the most. And I also urge all the entrepreneurs who are here today, but all who will have access to the CDTI afterwards, actively engage with the resources provided. It makes no sense that we provide all the resources and they are not taken up by small and medium-sized enterprises. And we recognize that SMEs are very busy. Sometimes it's one-person operations, but there are a number of tools that are available for you. So we encourage you to take advantage of these tools. Vision alone is not enough. We need the collective actions of our private sector to really transform the Caribbean into a global competitive economic hub. So with that being said, I would like to thank everyone who is taking part here this morning, and I would like you to please share the word about the CDTI. It's a completely free resource, so you have nothing to lose. So I hope you enjoy the session this morning and you take advantage of the opportunities that are given. And with that, I will pass it back on to the MC, Jonathan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sananan, for that and reminding us that these are tools that can be used, and we encourage everyone, all businesses, to use the tools available. I'd now like to invite Dr. Sylvia Donat, Lead Private Sector Development Specialist at the Inter-American Development Bank, to join us to share a few words. Dr. Donat?
Thank you so much, Jonathan. And I would like first to acknowledge my colleagues on the panel. Honorable Philip Jackson, Minister of Education, Vocational Training and Innovation, and Digital Transformation from the Government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Senator Dr. Lynette Holder, who's the chairperson of the Board of Directors of Caribbean Export Development Agency and CEO of the Small Business Association of Barbados. Dr. Dami Sinanan, Caribbean Export Development Agency Executive Director, and Kayla Grant, Executive Director of Compete Caribbean. So I'm so excited to see the launch of this Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute. And I wanted to take a step back to talk to you a little bit about the motivation on the side of the IDB to finance this as a regional public good, which is complemented with Compete Caribbean resources as well. So in 2021, we were all in the Caribbean still living through COVID and having experienced a contraction that was much bigger than the rest of Latin America and almost than the rest of the world, given the Caribbean's dependence on tourism. And at the same time, we all recognize that COVID was accelerating the uptake of digital technology across the world, and that this absorption of digital technology would be a determining factor in the ability of micro, small, and medium enterprises to survive the COVID shock. Also, work by the IDB at that time suggested that Caribbean businesses were demanding technical support for how to digitalize and diversify their markets as a way to surmount the crisis. Specifically, from Compete Caribbean, Compete Caribbean had financed an innovation firm, productivity and gender data collection amongst nearly 2,000 businesses in the Caribbean of all sizes in 13 countries, right, during 2020, in the middle of COVID. And that survey recognized that 85% of businesses, so almost a full spectrum of businesses, were potential digital innovators. What did that mean? It meant that these businesses were trying to adopt digital technology, but they didn't know how to go about it, or they faced a number of constraints. Even large businesses in the Caribbean were in this category. So this was not only a problem of micro, small, and medium enterprises, although it affected them more. Even large businesses didn't know how to adopt digital technology. And also, women-owned businesses and businesses in the smaller countries were also more affected by this, how do I adopt digital technology? At the same time, this survey also proved that those that were able to adopt the digital technology, which were a minority of the whole sample, had experienced a lot of benefits that Dr. Holder had stated earlier, like it had opened access to new markets, it increased their capacity to produce goods and services, it increased sales, the quality of their product, health and safety and other working conditions. Remember, we were in the middle of COVID. And it reduced the average cost per unit of output. So it made them more productive, more competitive. So this Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute was a response to the promise that digital technology offers to Caribbean businesses, but also the difficulties that businesses in the Caribbean face in digital transformation. And just wanted to tell you that this institute is part of a larger package that is being offered to the region. So part of it is the launch of the digital checkup tool, which was launched 2 years ago by Caribbean Exports, which helps businesses understand where they are in terms of digital maturity. And very importantly, this Digital Transformation Institute wants to reinforce the role that the Caribbean Export plays as a hub for business support organizations that are looking to support their clients in becoming more digital. Some of the services that are envisioned and that we built into this project together with Caribbean Exports to build out this service are not only the digital checkup tool, which is already up and running, but a backend dashboard for business support organizations so that they could see what were the most important digital transformation needs for businesses in their country, training to business support organizations on the digital maturity of businesses. This institute that is being launched today, which is an asynchronous group of courses along 6 maturity areas, a recommendation to what are the digital innovation policies and strategies that different countries can adopt beyond and to build upon this Digital Transformation Institute. That will be coming later, and a database of digital providers that can further support Caribbean businesses in digital transformation. I want to congratulate Caribbean exports in achieving this milestone because it has required a lot of work. And I hope that these tools are widely used by Caribbean businesses and the business support organizations that support them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sylvia, for that. I'd now like to invite Ms. Kayla Grant, the Executive Director of Compete Caribbean, to join us and share a few words.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jonathan, and good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. I certainly want to start out by acknowledging Honorable Philip Jackson, Minister of Education, Vocational Training and Innovation, and Digital Transformation from the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's really an honor to have you here because it really shows how much you value this work and this program that's being undertaken. I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. Lynette Holder, Chairperson of the Board of Directors of Caribbean Export Development Agency, and also CEO of the Small Business Association of Barbados, Dr. Damie Sinanan, Executive Director of Caribbean Export. As per usual, it's always good and great to see you in these spaces, and thank you for inviting us. And of course, Dr. Sylvia Donert, Lead Private Sector Development Specialist at the IDB. And Sylvia, I think you started off excellently and given a bit of the context of how this project came about and why we're working together and the importance of digital transformation and the promise that it brings. And so the launch of this Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute is a huge milestone for Caribbean Export, for the IDB, for us supporters here at Compete Caribbean, but also really for the region and our broader digital and economic transformation agenda. So here at Compete Caribbean, which I must do a very quick plug to our donors in the sense of the fact that we're a private sector development agency that's jointly funded not only by the IDB, but also by the UK's FCDO, the Caribbean Development Bank, and the Government of Canada. But here at Compete Caribbean, we really see the CDTI as a powerful regional public good. It's one that will strengthen the ecosystem supporting MSMEs and help to position the Caribbean firms to compete, innovate, and grow in the digital global economy. As described by Dr. Holder and Dr. Sinanan and Dr. Donert, this initiative directly addresses one of the region's most persistent challenges, and it's this question of how we're enabling our MSMEs to effectively adopt and leverage digital technologies in a way that will improve their productivity, but also how we're helping them to access markets and to grow and to innovate. And the evidence is clear, and Sylvia would have pointed this out in her description of the data that we've seen across the Caribbean in terms of the type of barriers and challenges that our firms face at digital transformation. And I won't go into all of these because I think we very much know these type of challenges, but what the CDTI does in response to directly are these gaps by how we're creating a coordinated regional platform and really how we're aggregating this demand, how we're building and raising awareness for these firms and businesses and providing them with a, and I quote Dr. Sinanan, free tool so that they can improve their knowledge and capabilities to help them to succeed. And so that we see that these challenges that these firms face and where MSMEs also play a critical role in economic diversification, that this CDTI is giving them this access to these digital tools and skills and hopefully access to markets through other services that Caribbean Export provides. And so we really see this as a gateway initiative help bridge those gaps and then to open up these opportunities and avenues through structured pathways to help firms improve their operational efficiency, their capabilities, and also, again, emphasizing how important it is to build not only the domestic market, but how we're accessing global markets as well. So this digital checkup tool that's widely being used across the region. So we have loan programs, for instance, in Belize with Beltrade that's making use of the digital tool. Jamaica will be making use of it as well. It's really generating critical intelligence on firms and helping us to understand how we can support them. So really data-driven evidence from these firms and also how we're tailoring these training courses that you, the entrepreneurs and MSMEs, will have access to. So it's not generic. This is very unique and it's quite targeted. But I think most importantly, as Dr. Sinanan would have mentioned, is reflects the strength of our partnership and working together. And so Compete Caribbean Plus, we're very proud to be working along with you and your team, Dr. Sinanan. I definitely want to acknowledge Jonathan and Wayne, who have been working hard behind the scenes and pulling this together over the last few years. This is a really important coordination mechanism and looking at regional solutions. And as I close off, I just want to quickly also mention that how this tool and how the CTI is also feeding into work that we're doing together with Caribbean Export in terms of the Technology Extension Services Initiative. And so this Technology Extension Services Initiative, which will be coming soon in the future, it complements the CDTI. What the CDTI is essentially doing is helping to build capabilities in digital readiness. And then this technology extension services work that we're doing will help to translate that knowledge and capabilities and hopefully support with concrete investments in digital technology and productivity enhancing investments, technology adoption, and also how we're supporting in accessing the funds that firms will need to then, well, from the point of where you're saying, okay, this is where I am, this is the capabilities I have. Now, how do I move from that into investing in the type of tools that I can absorb into my firm? And that's what we're working on together, recognizing how vulnerable the Caribbean is to external shocks, especially climatic shocks. We're also incorporating resilience into that tool and helping to develop a climate diagnostics for firms. So looking ahead, the opportunity I think is significant. We're really proud of this collaboration, our future collaboration between our organizations and also with the development partners and governments that are on board, and especially with the private sector and the BSOs that are participating with this. It really reflects the region's development approach of strengthening ecosystems and developing the type of policies and tools that help to build our firms and deliver the scalable regional impact. Compete Caribbean Plus, we remain fully committed to this partnership with Caribbean Export in the next phase of this journey. So once again, I'll close off by congratulating the Caribbean Export team and all the partners involved in bringing this initiative to life. It's really exciting to see the CDTI come out as a catalyst for how we can transform our Caribbean businesses to compete in the digital age. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla, for those words, and all the speakers for reminding us that this is a tool that is free and accessible, and it is there for everyone's benefit. So we highly encourage you to participate. Now, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Minister Philip Jackson, Minister of Education, Vocational Training and Innovation and Digital Transformation for the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Minister Jackson has a very long and distinguished career in the science, technology and innovation field, working intimately with several institutions across his distinguished career to promote policies on science and technology and driving digital transformation. In fact, Minister Jackson is a core reason why we're here today in terms of his familiarity with the CDTI. So without further ado, Minister Jackson, I invite you to give the keynote address, High Resolution, Building a Digitally Competitive Caribbean.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Great. Pleasure to be here. I feel like I'm among family. So let me recognize the presence of Dr. Lynette Holder, Chairperson of the Board of Directors of Caribbean Export Development Agency, and also the CEO of Small Business Association of Barbados, Dr. Damie Sinanan, Executive Director of Caribbean Export, Dr. Sylvia Donald, Lead Private Sector Development Specialist for the Inter-American Development Bank, and the Executive Director of Compete Caribbean, Kayla Grant. I'd also like to recognize Mr. Wayne Elliott, Manager of Technical Programs at Caribbean Export, and Mr. Jonathan Citron, our Chairperson, and as well as the Lead Officer for Innovation and Digital Business And I know we have online a number of individuals representing business support organizations and other institutions of government responsible for private sector development. I want to say a special good morning to you. So as highlighted, my name is Philip Jackson. I'm the newly minted Minister of Education, Vocational Training, Innovation, Digital Transformation and Information of the Government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And like I said, it's a real pleasure here speaking to my colleagues, basically, because I've worked in these areas of private sector development, digital transformation, innovation, and many of you I've met in my previous life. And so I'm very happy to be here to share some of my thoughts with you. So if you take a look at the next slide, there's this image may be familiar to some of you who may have done biology or science at school. So what you're looking at here is a drawing of cork cells by Robert Hooke, published in 1665 in his publication called Microphagia. And as you can see, there's just very rudimentary drawings. And if you look at the right, that's just one of the very first microscopes. But research and development has led to better understanding of optics, which has led to the evolution of the design of microscopes. And these designs have led to greater resolution of cells. Our topic, of course, is looking at resolution and its impact on competitiveness of Caribbean firms. And this graphic just highlights that microscope technology and its ability to give very high resolution imagery of cells has gone from optics, this is just using light, to electron microscopes. So it's really a move from what is called photons to electrons. So this establishes the fact that resolution is critical to advancement, because it's precisely because of this improvement in the resolution of images made possible by advancement in microscope technology that scientists and doctors are able to understand better how our body functions and how to develop treatment, understanding viruses, bacteria, and how they interact with living systems, and how living systems react to invasion of microorganisms. So resolution is critical, not only in the realm of science, biology, and medicine, but also in the area of business intelligence. And that's the reason why we're here. And central to understanding high resolution business intelligence are digital tools, and particularly tools such as the digital checkup, which is form a very cool part of the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute that we are launching today. So the other part of the presentation speaks, so on one side we speak of resolution, and on the other side we're speaking about competitiveness. Now, when you speak of competitiveness, some people speak of country level competitiveness, and it's really about the ability to conquer new markets, enter new markets, to outshine your competitors, and to attract, very importantly, foreign direct investment and to grow. And for policymakers, we definitely need to understand how competitive our countries are relative to others, and how our competitive position evolves over time. Now, when you reflect on the concept of competitiveness from the perspective of the Caribbean, I think, in my opinion, there's some elements of competitive advantage for the Caribbean. One, we're a zone of relative peace and stability. Despite recent events, the Caribbean still enjoys tremendous peace and stability, and that is important for foreign direct investment. We have proximity to key markets in North America, etc., and some parts of Europe. We have a strong connection to former metropoles. So whether it's the British Caribbean or the French Caribbean or the Spanish Caribbean, they tend to enjoy very strong connections to the former capitals under colonialism, which are important markets still for us today. We have shared historical and institutional legacy, our legal system, our parliaments, that is almost replicated throughout the region. We have a large diaspora in many parts of North America and Europe. We have, well, if you exclude Haiti, you would know that we are dominated by English speakers who are comparatively well educated, and that allows for us to do remote work and etc. That requires the ability and fluency in that language. And of course, we are endowed with stunning natural beauty, and it's no wonder that tourism is a critical part of the GDPs of most of our countries. And we have a rich tapestry of what I call Kalalu culture, meaning the Caribbean culture is a fusion of various elements, African elements, indigenous elements, European elements, and more recently, Indian and Chinese elements. So we have a rich Kalalu culture and music with global appeal. So some argue that, yeah, well, countries don't really compete, yeah, but countries set the framework conditions, as I just explained. They say, well, it's the firms, not nations, which compete in international markets. And according to Porter, countries do not buy or sell goods overseas, companies do. And of course, we accept that wisdom. But I think there are different levels of competitiveness. There's the country level, regional level, and of course, the firm level. And very important proxies of competitiveness, which we have to keep our eyes on, and which the Digital Transformation Institute and the Digital Checkup Tool allows us to really look into labor productivity, the probability of export, the percentage of inputs of foreign origin used by the firm, and the share of total sales that were exported. And of course, people look at firm level competitiveness from two levels. Either one, you're offering the same product or service at a lower price, but the one that we need to focus on in the region, in my opinion, is offering a better product or service, but at the same price as others. But some may argue also that we have abilities for premium Caribbean premium, so we could offer products and services at a premium price, which can add to sustainability. Now, let's take a step back and try to understand a more global picture. According to the Caribbean Development Dynamics Report 2025, and here I just want to recognize the consistent support of the Inter-American Development Bank in producing knowledge products for our region, consistently high-level knowledge products that guide policymakers, institutions, businesses, and other operators in the private sector development field. So together with the OECD, there was a report called Caribbean Development Dynamics. And basically it says, when we think of digital transformation, firm level competitiveness, resolution in terms of data, we fairly have very good internet penetration. Yeah. Also, digital technologies allow small island developing states to bypass physical barriers and high transport costs and enter markets digitally, like access, especially for digital products and services. One key element from the report is the modernizing public service. And here they see digital transformation is identified as a primary driver for not only improving government effectiveness, but for driving innovation in the local economy. And I'm going to later on SharePoint of why government e-services can be a tremendous hotbed, a tremendous framework for driving innovation, digital innovation at the firm level. And if you look at policy readiness, the report found that at least 11 Caribbean nations have already established formal policy frameworks for digital development. So that's good. And if we take a focus in terms of diversity in the economy and building a skilled workforce, one, we have the opportunity to build economic complexity through digitalization. And this allows us to transition from traditional sectors like tourism and commodities into higher end technology services, financial insurance, IT service. But I want to also add that it extends and enhances our capacity for traditional sectors like virtual reality and augmented reality, especially in tourism, and things like traceability of food systems for agriculture. So not only is digitalization allowing us to transition to new areas, but it helps to give new life and new nuances and new opportunities to traditional economic activities like tourism and agriculture. And of course, there is the productivity link because digital tools help labor productivity. And the report says that labor productivity is in the Caribbean stands at 46% of the OECD level. So there's an opportunity there for expansion. And of course, there's human capital development, which is a critical area. There's a skills gap that's emerging, obviously, in acquiring the sort of necessary skills. And particular to what we're talking about today is we are going to need a plethora, a whole army of digital service providers and digital service advisors to help companies understand, first of all, their digital maturity and help them to develop digital adoption plans. And so there's a human capital development that I am sure and I recommend that we need to really focus in to give sustainability to the efforts of the Digital Transformation Institute. And of course, there's the digital literacy programs. I want to reflect on currently in St. Vincent and Grenadines, we're implementing what is called the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project. And one of the components specifically focuses on high-end digital skills, understanding the critical nature of these to create new job opportunities in a global context, but also to serve the local economy. But we're not just staying there, we also recognize the importance of digital skills by the population, the citizenry. The reason for that is that the more digitally engaged citizens are, it provides a ready market for our businesses to digitalize because you have a population that is already accustomed to interfacing with digital platforms and a digital culture. And this culture drives adoption of what our own businesses offer. So this two-tier level of digital skills where the general population as well as high-end skills is critical to driving the sort of innovation and digital transformation of the firms themselves because of the culture that it would have developed among the population. And for the infrastructure barriers, we still suffer from very high costs of internet connectivity, broadband connectivity. Prices are coming down, but I think as we go forward, we have to look at public-private partnership and how the ISPs, internet service providers, in conjunction with governments, can provide broadband services as a public good and based on development. Because as one of our former speakers said, we have to move from consumption to production. So you want to make sure that connectivity and access and use is fomented by affordability so that our citizens can think more of digital services broadband services, not as consumption and entertainment, but properly for development. And projects like the CARSIP and the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project helps to address some of these infrastructure barriers. Right, so the IDB again did a innovation and firm performance in the Caribbean report from 2023, and when Dr. Donald was speaking about COVID was really an impetus for rapid innovation, and 50% of Caribbean firms introduced new products or significantly improved processes. And a lot of the innovation was heavily skewed towards digitalization. So Caribbean firms are not new to this. It's just a matter of deepening what we do, our processes, adoption of new technologies, and how we manage those. And 75% of innovating firms adopted new software, digital platforms, whether for remote work, e-commerce, or accounting. However, the research and development intensity is low, and so there's an opportunity there. We're more characterized by just incremental innovation rather than what we might call disruptive innovation. So that's an area for expansion there, and of course, interventions like the CDTI allows for us to move further up the innovation value chain. And of course, again, which is not new to anyone, the data shows that large firms have an advantage. The larger, older firms are better able to make better investments and more informed decisions relative to digital investments. Great. So what are some of the drivers of performance and productivity from the report? Well, it proves that firms that both innovate in both products and processes see the highest gains in efficiency and sales per worker. So that's an opportunity there. Product and process innovation leads to higher growth and sales. And the key growth drivers, again, human capital, cannot underscore enough the importance of this formal training and an investment in your teams, both at the firm level and at the country level, to take this work forward. Foreign investment, companies with foreign ownership or those that export tend to have a better access to the knowledge and technology needed to innovate. And what are some of the critical barriers from the reports is access to finance. Now, as a policymaker, you visit companies, you go to events and so on. The big question is always about money. How do we afford the investments necessary? And most small businesses know that high interest rates and collateral requirements are limiting the funding for digital transition. So that's why things like grant funding becomes important, and the interventions through the IDB, Compete Caribbean, Caribbean Export are important to help small firms afford, initially at least, the sort of investments that are necessary to drive their innovation and digitalization agenda. But we have to begin to look at different ways of providing funding, whether through low interest loans, through various facilities, through development banks, etc. And of course, the skills gap, and the report also identify a gender gap, which, women-led firms often face tighter credit constraints. And so that is why most of the projects in the region now have a gender focus to ensuring that women-led firms, women-owned firms have equitable access to the sort of resources that's needed. Right. So let's now get what, in my opinion, the Digital Transformation Institute can do. Well, one, and goes back to the question of resolution. One, you have very fine data through the use of the digital checkup as to exactly what is happening in the firms. So the firms themselves can check their digital maturity by answering the questions in the digital checkup and get a better understanding of where they are and where they need to be and the investment gap. But also the BSOs and all the other aggregators in the ecosystem can have that aggregated data to understand the financing gap, the investment gap, the skills gap. And this sort of resolution in the data is what allows us to take actionable investment, to make actionable investments and decisions going forward. And of course, we know that our MSMEs are the engine of digital competitiveness. And I just want to compliment the focus on the micro, small, and medium enterprises of this initiative, because they make up the majority of our businesses in the region. And they precisely, as from the report, show that they're the one who definitely need this sort of intervention. And the sort of insights that would come from the Digital Transformation Institute and the digital checkup allows all the development actors in the region to come together and get a better picture of what's going on and say, you know what, this is a data-driven insight. Here's where we need to make the intervention. Let's do this. So that is one of the real benefits. And I look forward to that, the type of aggregated data that would allow for this. And of course, goes back to the question of competitiveness. The reason why we're doing any of this, if you have a bad business model, digitalization just makes it worse. Okay, so we have to look at digitalization in terms of the fundamentals. Why are we doing this? For competitiveness. Digitalization serves for competitiveness, so enabling greater participation in commerce and digital trade, enhancing productivity and innovation, and allowing Caribbean firms to compete effectively in a global marketplace. So we have to have the fundamentals right. But so when we add the digitalization to it and the tools, we are accelerating in the right direction. So there's some lessons learned from Canada. I'll just summarize it. So the Canadians had put out a digital adoption program, 700 and something million Canadian dollars, basically. But what they did is that they had a digital checkup tool, not as involved as the one we have in the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute. So I want to compliment everyone for really developing a really high-end tool with very disaggregated potential in terms of data collection. So Canadian firms were able to use the online digital checkup, and based on their results, they were able to access a grant of up to 15,000 Canadian dollars. And this grant would allow them to hire a digital adoption specialist, a digital adoption advisor, who would then come in for a couple of weeks, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, sit with the company and do their analysis, the diagnostic. What is your business processes? How can technology help? How can digital technologies help? And they will develop an investment plan, a digital adoption plan. And this digital adoption plan was expected to be investment ready, so companies can take it to a donor agencies for funding or a credit agency. And in the case of the Canadian is the Business Development Bank, who was at the time offering up to 100,000 Canadian dollars to firms with well-developed digital adoption plan that came out of the grant funding. But something interesting happened. Of course, 26,000 firms would have had the digital adoption plan developed, but it was found that the quality of the digital adoption plan varied tremendously. And that's because the quality of the digital service advisors, the digital adoption advisors vary tremendously. So that's something we have to look out for in the Caribbean here. If we're going to use digital adoption professionals, and this is something I'm going to recommend, how do we ensure that they have the quality, and how do we design the marketplace so that persons can rate these digital advisors? And only 40% of the companies who had developed a plan actually access the $100,000 loan that was available to them. So I think the lesson here is, so we have the Digital Transformation Institute with the courses, we have the digital checkup, but I think it's, and if you go to the next slide, I think it's important that we introduce, and Kayla alluded to it. I think she read my mind. Jonathan, skip to the next slide, please. Yes. The critical importance of ourselves providing through technology extension services, and the same concept, and that's because I have a long history of relationship with the various agencies, and including Compete Caribbean. So I would strongly recommend that to enhance this program going forward, we definitely develop, I know there's a database being developed, but take a really technology extension services approach to ensuring that businesses have access to high quality digital adoption advisors who can help them to move to the next level, to develop investment ready plans, and hopefully you can come together to provide the sort of funding necessary for the type of investments coming out of those plans. So I was very curious when I looked at the data. There's something interesting here about, I saw Belize, Jonathan Belize has a tremendous amount of respondents. I want to learn from Belize how that is happening. But we have decided here in the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines that all programs relative to innovation and digital transformation as a prerequisite for accessing the programs, the completion, and you'll be happy to know, the completion of the digital checkup tool. So, and I would encourage all other countries to do the same, because that level of data is important. So I mentioned the technology extension services approach, and Compete Caribbean, the regional experts on that. But I also want to propose that in the public service, we have a lot of IT experts, digital experts, and in the public service that are not always fully utilized every single day for the 8 hours. I want to propose that the public service might be a resource to augment digital service advisors who can be deployed for a short period of time, right, directly working with firms. That is something we are exploring in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and I think other member states can look at how public sector workers with the requisite skills can be deployed strategically to assist there. Easy term loans should be made available to businesses to fund the recommended investments coming out of the roadmaps from the digital investment plans. And there's the research from Canada shows that the investment should also give special emphasis to change management, the training of teams, adopting workflows, and sustaining new systems. So it's not just about the investment in the technology, but the change management is critical for sustainability. Right, so I think we also need to establish a regional mechanism with clear protocols for data sharing and exchange of lessons and learn and best practices. And I made this point earlier where e-government and the digital public infrastructure, including e-government, procurement, national ID, digital ID, national digital wallets, and an open data policy creates a sort of framework conditions for businesses to begin to innovate, because now they have access to data. There's a digital culture being developed. And so this is critical. The digital infrastructure, public infrastructure, is critical to encouraging this sort of culture, not only among citizens, but businesses. And finally, I just want to say that there's a concept I've developed as resolution as resonance. So resonance simply means when different wavelengths meet together and they multiply the effect of each other. So that's resonance. And I want to propose to us not only about just digital transformation and adoption of technology, but to use digital technologies to create new products and services. And I want to propose that we have country and regional level resources, physical, cultural, historical, and other intangibles resonating with emerging consumer trends and emerging technology trends that can create new products and services. And I want to make a point here in let's say in tourism. I believe the Caribbean is ripe given our vulnerability to climate shocks and also to pandemics, which decimated our tourism sector. I think there's a confluence, potential, there's a potential resonance of our natural endowments, our cultural endowments, combined with emerging consumer trends and technologies to create new products and services. And one of the areas is, for example, I call the digital dweller, who would visit our regions virtually through virtual reality technologies. What does things like this allow us? It allows persons, whether there's a pandemic, whether there's a hurricane, where people can't come physically, but they can visit a virtual Caribbean destination. And I think this is an area that we should give some emphasis to because it allows us to remain resilient and to still operate even in the face of shocks and so on. And while we use digital technologies for factor productivity increases and efficiency, I think there's a tremendous opportunity for us to reimagine tourism, agriculture, traceability, etc., so that we can lend and extend the different imaginations of traditional products. So I want to wish everyone all the best. I want to encourage the total use of the tools. I look forward to see the courses on the Digital Transformation Institute. And as reflected here, there's a tremendous will by various stakeholders in the region to drive digital adoption, digital transformation. And as we continue to share with each other and share data and lessons learned, this adds to the resolution of the data that allows us to make better decisions, more informed decisions, more strategic decisions leading to sustainability. So thank you and congratulations on the launch of the Digital Transformation Institute.
Thank you, Minister Jackson, for that, for being so insightful, um, in and really walking us through, what does it mean to be innovative and how we can, as a region, use the CDTI um, effectively and maximize its benefits. So thank you so much for that, Minister Jackson.
You're welcome.
So as we move quickly along, I have the distinct pleasure of essentially walking you through the CDTI and the learning platform that we've been discussing today, so you can get a sense of what it is, um, what it is meant to do, and how it can benefit you. So if you would permit me, and I will say for the benefit of everyone again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the Q&A box at the bottom. Feel free to drop your questions there and it will be answered. And feel free to also check the chat, as we'll be posting links to several of the things that we've been talking about today. We'll post the direct links there for you all to view and to check out. So let me just quickly share my screen. Just give me 1 second. Shit. All right, so let me just take you all through the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute. Now, it will be remiss of me to talk about the Digital Transformation Institute without first talking about one of its fundamental components, the digital checkup tool. And everyone would have heard at several intervals today the digital checkup tool. So what I'd like to do is to just share a bit about what this checkup tool is and why it is important for the overall CDTI project um, as a whole. So what is the digital checkup tool? Essentially, and we would recall Minister Jackson talking about gaps. The digital checkup tool, you can think of it as a survey that really addresses or determines your level of digital maturity. It assesses this through analyzing your responses to 6 key dimensions of digital transformation. The digital checkup tool itself, once completed, ranks your responses from beginner to advanced, each of which has their own characteristics, each of which presents their own recommendation, their own challenges for you to address. So, why use the digital checkup tool? The digital checkup tool. Well, the digital checkup tool is very good for benchmarking and self-assessing your digital transformation maturity as a company. Um, and identify critical gaps and areas for improvement. In terms of enhanced customer experience, it can indeed look at where or pinpoint where your weakness in terms of how can you use digital technologies to improve your customer experience. As Minister Jackson would have mentioned, cost optimization and efficiency. It is one of the fundamental reasons why we engage in digital transformation as businesses, because we want to be much more cost efficient um, to optimize our operations. For, Further on apart to this, in terms of strategic decision making, the digital checkup tool and its recommendation through its reports allows the private sector to make very strategic decisions on managing resources and implementing digital technologies to achieve their relevant business goals. So, just a bit, you can access the digital checkup tool via the website here. Um, If you already have an account, you can just simply log in or go to the startup page and just enter your information, and it will take you directly to the survey. And the survey is very interactive. So as you answer questions, there's a progress bar that shows you how far you're along, how many more questions you need to answer, and it gives you a sense of, as you're going through this digital checkup tool, you kind of get a sense of where you're at. And this is compounded in a downloadable report that will categorize you either as starter, beginner, advanced, or proficient in terms of your digital maturity, as well as give you the characteristics of that category and the gaps and an idea of the gaps that you need to fill. So you can almost think of it as the digital checkup tool being your first level digital transformation gap analysis that you can complete on your own. So, as Minister Jackson mentioned, we may not necessarily, this can be your online digital transformation advisor, so to speak. So, takes about 20-25 minutes. It covers 6 key dimensions of digital transformation, including digital technologies itself, sales, strategy, people, organization, etc. And at any point, you can, in completing this survey, you can save the progress and you can return to complete it. Um, and as always, with any survey, if we are doing the self assessment, we ask that all companies be very honest in terms of how you answer. Ensure that this is to ensure that you get the most accurate results that you can. This result or the results that are generated are meant to help you make that strategic decision to take your business to the next level in terms of your digital maturity. Um, You'll see here an example of a comprehensive downloadable report. It will tell you what level you are at from starter, beginner, proficient, and advanced. Gives you a description of what that means, and basically does gap analysis for you, what works or what does not work based on the answers that you would have provided. Um, so once you have these recommendations, what do you do? What do you do? So, and this is where the e-commerce, not e-commerce, the e-learning platform or the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute as a whole comes into place. Based on your results, um, whether you're starter, advanced, proficient, beginner, you can have assigned courses based on the results of your digital checkup tool. Now, this is very important as the CDTI, which is essentially this e-learning platform, houses several courses across all 6 dimensions of digital maturity tailored at each level. What that means is that if you're, let's say, for example, you're in the beginner stage and let's say um, digital technologies is lacking, there are courses specifically designed for a starter that is looking to improve their digital maturity with respect to the dimension of digital technologies. So these courses are very carefully curated to ensure that whichever category that you're in, the learning curve is not necessarily as steep, but the information is palatable, with the important caveat that this is implementable. We don't necessarily just want you to take these courses and not implement. There is a reason why we suggest that you take the digital checkup tool first, then you implement, and then you look at engaging in the courses. So understanding where your gaps are and essentially building your knowledge capacity on digital transformations based on the results of the digital checkup tool. Um, this is just a QR code right here that you can use to scan to to complete the digital checkup tool. And I have a very, very special slide coming up that is actually a video that walks you through and gives you a look at the actual CDTI platform. I may need to just stop share for 1 second and reshare, so please just bear with me.
The Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute. In this video, we'll take a quick look at how you can log in, access your courses, complete lessons, track your progress, and make the most of your learning experience. This overview is designed to help you feel comfortable navigating the platform from start to finish. To begin, you'll log in with the email address you used when taking the digital checkup tool, along with your password. If you've forgotten your password, simply use the password reset option to regain access. Once logged in, you'll be taken directly to your main dashboard, where you can view your assigned or enrolled learning content. Your dashboard is the central hub of the platform. From here, you can quickly see your active courses, any recent announcements, upcoming deadlines, and your learning progress. The navigation pane makes it easy to move between sections such as the dashboard, courses, your notes, discussion forums, course reports, and your profile settings. To access your learning content, go to Courses, then select My Courses or Virtual Classes. Here, you'll see the courses assigned to you. Search and filter tools help you quickly find the content most relevant to your role, topic, or skill level. To start learning, click Begin. If you've already made progress, click Resume. Need a refresher on a completed course? Click Review. Your lessons may include videos, readings, downloadable materials, interactive content, or knowledge checks. Many courses include quizzes or assessments to reinforce your learning and measure your understanding. After answering the questions, you'll submit your responses and receive a score. A passing score is required to complete the course successfully. From your dashboard or the progress section, you can view course completion percentages, see which courses are still in progress, and identify what remains to be completed. In addition to learning content, the platform includes account and support features. You can update your profile information, manage your settings, and access help resources if you encounter any issues. This ensures you can get assistance quickly and continue learning with minimal disruption. The Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute is designed to provide you with a simple and effective learning experience. From logging in and accessing courses to completing lessons and tracking progress, each feature helps support your continuous learning in an organized way. It's your path to a smarter digital future.
So that was just a brief video to explain and show what the functionality of the CDTI Institute is. As you can see from as you have seen from the video, you will have access to courses based on your digital maturity level. So one of the 4 levels that we would have discussed, and based on those courses are not only based by your level, but also um, based on your performance across the 6 digital transformation dimensions. So you would see that from e-commerce to cybersecurity, each topic has, or I should say, each dimension has several courses based on the level that you are trying to achieve. So if you're starter, you'll receive courses that will move you from starter to beginner. So that incremental phase. It is very important to note that we do ask that you complete the digital checkup tool first, because a very important caveat, your same login credentials for the digital checkup tool survey would be the exact same credentials you use for the CDTI e-learning platform. It is very important to note that this e-learning platform is just but a part of, or one component of, the entire CDTI project. So the digital checkup tool is one, the e-learning platform is one, and soon we're working on, and I believe Kayla and Sylvia would have mentioned it, um, you have done the self-assessment via the digital checkup tool. You've built your knowledge capacity via the e-learning platform, but how do you implement? And we recognize that not every business may have the digital transformation expertise in-house, which is why I am happy to announce that we are currently working on building out that database of digital service providers, so that we can really connect those businesses who need the services, the digital transformation services, can find those who can provide those services. So we can look at the CDTI as a whole as a very integrated system that attempts to not only identify and analyze the gaps that exist, but build the competencies of the business themselves, as well as provide a pathway to implement the recommendations that are coming out of the program itself. So I would I would highly encourage everyone to take a very, very good look at the CDTI, and all the relevant links will be shared in the chat. I will also mention one other thing. The CDTI platform does not just house the courses that we have there right now, but institutionally across the region, and particularly with BSOs, there are a lot of training that is happening, sometimes in silos, sometimes collaboratively. The CDTI can house these training programs on behalf of BSOs as well. These are it aims to be that regional knowledge hub for digital transformation for the benefit of our private sector. So with that, I would just bring my presentation to a close. I hope it was informative. As always, please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box, and we will answer those questions. Any questions on the CDTI platform or any of its elements, we'd really appreciate the engagement. So as I close off, I'll just want to transition to Mr. Wayne Elliott, who is the manager of the technical programs unit here at Caribbean Export, to give us some closing remarks and final thoughts. Wayne, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Good morning, everyone. So, just to close out the launch of the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute, it represents years of collaboration, vision, and commitment. It really started as a clear response to a regional priority. And what we really wanted to do was ensure that our MSMEs are equipped to compete and to thrive in an increasingly digital global economy. What we've built is practical, accessible, and impactful. The Institute already has some 40 tailored courses, and there are more in development. To date, we've had some 700 MSMEs who've completed the digital checkup tool, and I want to encourage you to go complete it as well. At the center of the ecosystem, this digital checkup tool is simple, but it's a powerful diagnostic that helps businesses really assess their ability and their needs in terms of readiness and identify the steps forward. Together, these two elements are, a bit more than a platform. Essentially, what they do is create a pathway for growth, resilience, and competitiveness. For the business support organizations, essentially what we want to do is we want to assist you with being able to assist the firms that benefit from your services. There is a dashboard tool that we have and we can provide you with access to that allows you to get a sense of how the firms within your country, within your jurisdiction are really performing, to then be able to design policies or initiatives that really assist them. Minister Phillip, that's the secret behind the Belize numbers. Essentially, what the government of Belize would have done is they would have made the digital checkup tool a prerequisite to some of the support that they were offering. And in exchange, you had to complete the digital checkup in order to get access. And for Caribbean export support, particularly those driven for digital transformation, it's a very similar thing. Essentially, what we're trying to do is get enough responses into the digital checkup tool that we're able to make more informed decisions by way of the design of our programs. We're deeply grateful to the Inter-American Development Bank and the Compete Caribbean Partnership Facility for their vision and their investment in this initiative. Their partnership has been instrumental in bringing this to life, and we want to especially acknowledge Dr. Sylvia Donert and Ms. Kayla Grant for their continued engagement and technical leadership throughout this journey. Our sincerest thanks to the Honorable Philip Jackson for his keynote address and for his role in advancing digital transformation across the region. We also recognize Dr. Lynette Holder, Dr. Demi Sinanan for their continued leadership and support and advocacy throughout this entire process. To my team here at Caribbean Export, I really want to thank you for championing this through. To the Project Advisory Committee representing the countries and ensuring that this doesn't land in the stratosphere somewhere, but is practical and grounded within the needs of the businesses we serve. We want to thank you for your continued participation, your continued support. But today is not the end. Really, it's the beginning. We're already looking ahead to ensure that the Institute is sustainable and it continues to evolve to meet the needs of Caribbean stakeholders. This includes developing a more streamlined way to tap into regional networks of digital service providers to support the implementation of the digital transformation exploits that the firms want to undertake. In the chat, you'll be able to pre-register. We're working with DX Alliance on really helping us to pull together this community. In the chat, you'll see a link which allows you to pre-register. So if you are a digital service provider and you're interested in supporting other Caribbean firms with their digital transformation exploits, we invite you to pre-register. We're going to be launching this initiative very soon. We're also developing the climate module, which should assist with greening initiatives, climate adaptation and mitigation initiatives with the Compete Caribbean Plus facility. And what we really want to do is deepen our support and the work that we're doing with business support organizations to really continue to build out the content of the Institute, as well as to expand the performance and the platform's reach. Ultimately, the success of CDTI will not be measured by what we launched today, but effectively by how many businesses we support and what they actually do with the information there. To the entrepreneurs and business owners of the Caribbean, this platform is genuinely for you. We encourage you to take the first step, complete the digital checkup, explore the courses, begin your transformation journey. Whether you're just starting, looking to scale, the tools are here and we're ready to support. You're not just participants in this moment, you're the reason it exists. Your ambition, your resilience, and the innovation continues to shape the future of our region. It's really through you that we determine the true success of this initiative. On behalf of the Caribbean Export Development Agency, thank you for your partnership, your commitment, and your belief in the potential of Caribbean enterprises. Thank you very much for your time in spending your morning with us. We invite you to utilize all the tools available under the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute, not just today, but for years to come. Thank you. Jonathan?
Thanks for that, Wayne. Thanks for wrapping it up nicely for us. As we close, I'll just like to direct everyone to the chat once again. We'll be posting the links again for everyone. We are answering a few other questions. What we will do is we will drop the relevant email addresses in the chat. So if there are further conversations after we finish today, you can feel free to send us your comments and questions and queries, and we'll definitely engage with you to get you on board and a part of this whole CDTI ecosystem. So again, once again, thanks to all of you for joining us, for taking your time and joining us here today. Thank you to all the speakers, all the panelists. You've really been insightful. You've really, I think, excited the crowd for the CDTI. So I'll leave. We will end here, and we will just leave, I guess, the webinar going just for about 2 minutes or so that everyone can get the final bits of information in the chat, and then we will close off. Thank you everyone for joining us. I do hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope to see many of you engaging with the CDTI very soon. So thank you everyone. Have a wonderful day.